I guess we can just kick things off with we posted the agenda. Any comments on the agenda, any walk-on items, anything that we need to adjust for the agenda tonight?
Not
All
for
right.
me.
June 24th meeting minutes from our last meeting. Everyone approve the minutes? Any questions, adjustments need to be made?
Good with
All
them.
right. This is the easy part of the meeting. This is great.
Looks good. Nice job with the minutes.
Sailing right through.
Yes. Are you on a sailboat? Is that what?
No, no,
okay.
no.
Came in a minute late and heard something about boating. All right. So the three main items for tonight really surrounding. Oh, I don't know how discuss new meeting time ended up on the agenda again. Do we need to discuss a new meeting time?
I don't think so, but I saw it there, so I kept, I'll take it off.
I'm going to
We've
strike.
adjusted the agenda. No discussing the new meeting time.
Okay. So, yeah, sorry if that gave anyone heartburn for having to try and find another meeting time. But I think we're staying here. Okay, so the three main items is around the narrative, town plan narrative, action items for the town plan, and then talking through like the strategic housing plan and what are next steps. Like I feel like we've gone through a few iterations on that. But where do we take this next? So those are the three items. Reed, do you want to do the narrative updates and kind of walk us through draft 2?
Sure.
Before you jump in, Virginia, I did see a note from you right before the call. Was that just from?
Yeah, I had really just looked at this narrative, so this is all like based on my last couple of weeks with the steering committee and the planning commission and the kinds of decisions that they're making. So I did a red line edit and then I cleaned it up and made sort of a draft of what I think they're actually expecting. So I can talk about that if you want.
And I just, before we get there, I just want to make sure you went off of what was in the like Reed's latest draft that was in the meeting minutes.
In the meeting materials.
Materials for today. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page draft wise.
Yep.
Well, Reed, why don't you walk us through what you've put together and then we can talk about the input that Virginia has.
Sure.
If that works.
Yeah, let me just, am I off mute? Yeah. Yeah, so it's a really long draft. I think the first thing I said to Mark is, I promise you that within the next 2 weeks, I can cut it down by half or more. But, part of it is just my very messy process, publicized to all of you as I get to know sort of Richmond and housing and the different reports that are done and the data. And so from where I sit, that draft 2 was a really long and messy version of what I was hoping could sort of ultimately be, part of what we submit. Obviously, I was expecting and hoping for edits and input from you all. So I think I was trying to be responsive, to the comments that were made last time. I didn't think there was sort of a decision made on for sure we're going to take out the endnotes, for sure we're going to take out the data. So I kept all of that in, thinking that that would sort of come later on down the line, that like maybe there is sort of a process. That maybe we get it before the steering committee, and have that discussion with them rather than anticipate that they're going to have a particular perspective on it. Or maybe we could make a case if there are certain things that we wanted to keep in data wise. I sort of thought that's where we landed. But anyway, long-winded way of saying I kept and sort of added some of the data as I had promised that I would try to find some additional stuff. I agree. I had very little time to work on this month, but I certainly thought by the end that like all of the data was just sort of, or all of the numbers and the percentages were just sort of bogging it down. So I certainly think there's a better and smarter way to include some key numbers. I don't think I'm at the place where I think none of the numbers should be in there, but maybe I could be convinced. Yeah, I think I had a couple of sort of questions and comments for you all, but I think it's pretty sort of self-explanatory. There was one thing that I didn't get to at all, which was like any mention of the chip bill, to the extent that is relevant. Yeah. And then, sorry, Mark, by the time I also didn't add the action items, which I understand is like the thrust of the whole thing. But I had to get this out to you and was sort of struggling to understand if I was going to add how much of the document I was going to add. Would we just be summarizing, or would we be sort of like wholesale just importing it in? So anyway, but yeah, I'll stop there. And if folks have comments or thoughts or questions, or just want to discuss the two versions.
I'm so sorry. I have to say that I don't have the link to your document. I was sort of waiting to receive one, but I didn't ever. I may have completely missed it, but can you put it in the chat so that I can catch up a little?
Yeah, sorry, I thought Keith had posted it.
Yeah, it's posted in meeting materials for this date's meeting.
Oh, it
But
is.
maybe
Okay.
you thought it was going to be in SharePoint, which is a reasonable expectation, and I was supposed to get it in there too.
No. I can go to the I can definitely go out to the website and find it. He did put in the homepage link for housing and the town plan homepage link. I assume this is in the homepage link for housing?
No, it's in the meeting materials for this date's meeting, where the agenda is. There's a
Yeah,
list of meeting materials.
that's where it goes. Yeah, that's where housing, he says meeting homepage link and housing July 22nd. So this is draft 2 narrative housing section town plan,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
get that. I'm so sorry. And I wish I had, but I'm on it now. Not that long. It's only 5 pages. What?
I think the average, I like looked back, I think the average is like 3. And those are for maybe some of the more heady scientific.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to make their argument. I think like, there's there's some information that I think is important to get out to folks, but I certainly appreciate, Virginia, you sort of taking the first stab at redlining.
Yeah. So you want me to talk about my issues?
Maybe, but can we pause? I just wonder, because yours is so comprehensive.
Sure. Yeah.
I just wonder if anyone else, if Andrew or Mark had thoughts. Because I feel like last meeting, it was sort of like, that was sort of the majority of the meeting.
Andrew,
I wasn't here last meeting, so I'm curious to hear the dialogue. So I didn't see the back story on how everything developed. It is a very comprehensive report here. That will lose a lot of people's interest very quickly. Unfortunately, they don't care as much. They need like bullet points, and that's how it resonates often. So I don't have any comment right now, until I kind of hear where other folks are at on certain pieces. A lot of it's really, we've talked about a lot of these pieces over time. So action items are always important. Like what are the action items and the takeaways that we're generating from this, other than looking at the old history around everything, like what's steps 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm coming into this with a bias of folks in the housing committee feeling like it's really like there is this disconnect between, you know, the perspective of build more housing and, generally like Richmond residents sort of openness to, having a diverse community, for example. And it just seems like part of what we're supposed to be doing as the housing committee is educating people on the issues. And if people aren't understanding like the history, at least for me, like that's always compelling. I'm certainly not saying it needs to be in a really long-winded way, but like if we don't understand like where we came from, I think it's really hard to make the argument that like something needs to change. So that was
Right.
once again, like it absolutely doesn't need to take this like crazy verbose, like pulling all these things from everywhere. I'm sort of just being a little bit of a pack rat at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think last month a lot of discussion, or there was a significant discussion around what is included in the housing section narrative up front, and then this concept of the footnotes or the extra area for further expansion on thought, right? Um, and I think this reads really well. I guess, Virginia, you had mentioned that in working with the steering committee, maybe we just need to best understand what the purpose of the narrative is. It just to give that high level overview to help set up our action items that we're proposing. And how do we, to Marie's point, like, how do we continue to explain the challenge and the background, right? I think it reads really nicely to include all of those elements. And I get that there's different types of folks. The folks that want the high level overview and the folks that are much more into wanting to dive deep into a topic because they might feel more passionate or more interested in understanding about that. And can we cater to both of those individuals?
Yeah, one other just sort of piece of background information, maybe for Andrew, but maybe just as a reminder, is once again, not saying the form is necessarily like the best representation of this, but when I looked at Maya's comments on our town plan, like she was urging us to include some of these pieces. And again, I don't know. I feel like if people are told, like I've heard Andrew say it in this meeting, like, is it coming from Montpelier? There's sort of this, I think there's a legislative change that's going to be like impacting our community. And part of it is, like, I guess framing it a little bit, like framing it as like, this is the result of a really long period of time of like towns like Richmond just like struggling to make these really hard decisions. But like, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'll stop.
I always have plenty of opinions and comments to add. Some of them are very unpopular, and I do apologize if they are. When I look at the quote unquote housing crisis that we look at nationwide, Vermont, Chittenden County, Richmond, from a micro or macro level, I think that some pieces in here talk about how it's not like a problem we can all solve, and it takes the whole group together to make it happen. I wouldn't want the housing committee to lose sight of potentially what Richmond's position in that problem solving world is, and be realistic um what we can accomplish and what our infrastructure and geography allows. And so all I really am trying to like iterate there is it's to focus on like development as a whole, just housing as a whole across all of Chittenden County, where it's like a spider web that starts in the center and sprawls out, is where we are at the very end of like that spider web. So what's our responsibility within that web? What housing stock should we provide to help solve each pocket's problem? And does this accomplish that? That would be what my primary focus would be around if I were to analyze this. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I think we've been given to some extent what Richmond's, the ask of Richmond in helping to solve this bigger puzzle, right? And that's from the state, the CCRPC, as to that housing target of 400-ish units, right? Like, I think that's I feel like that's the direction we've been given as to, hey, this is Richmond's share, right? And maybe to your point, Andrew, just being much more specific of here's how we propose closing this gap in which we as a community, as a member of Vermont, right, in general, are helping to solve this problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, the roadmap at the end is like that's the bullet point approach of what do we need to do? And I guess when I look at updating zoning regulations, there's that's not something that I look at within the housing committee as getting in that mud. Because zoning is like a whole new world that take Connie could or not Virginia could add insight into this. Like that's I wouldn't focus on the zoning piece. I would look more at the communication of what the vision is. Like if there were a budget, if I were building a budget for how we could help people see things, the first thing I would invest in would be like architectural design of what a future Richmond could look like from 100 feet, like looking over the village, and what would that 40-year, 50-year roadmap look like? Because that's how I think that we would be able to communicate people to see this. They're just not, the context is great, but like zoning and those pieces, I don't know if they're gonna be worth our time. We're not gonna help there,
Yeah.
right?
Well, just to be
Yeah.
clear, the action items are set to be changed. I was hoping to just get a teensy bit, either for Mark just to copy and paste in what we've already agreed to as a committee, which I thought included some zoning, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it does, or considering the work that's already been done,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I mean, the
But
opting into tier 1B really checks a ton of boxes off of zoning. Like that solves many problems.
yeah, um, I mean, I hear you, Andrew. Like, I don't think we're gonna become zoning experts other than Virginia here, right? Um, but I think that's part of it's a piece of the puzzle, right? For us to continue is like, hey, is the town still expanding effort to look at all of these different facets, like the water sewer piece? Like, we're not experts on water sewer. I don't think that we're going to make headway in terms of actually rewriting any bylaws or anything like that. But it's identified as a barrier to the goals that we do have, right? And how do we continue to keep that top of mind for the folks in the Water Sewer Commission, right? So I guess to your point, like I don't foresee these members right here in and of themselves accomplishing all of these items, other than this is what's needed to accomplish our overall goal.
Fair enough.
Well, it's sort of like the advocacy that was done on Tier 1B by the Housing Committee.
Right, exactly. The advocacy work, right?
You
It's
know,
advocacy.
like
It's
that, like if there was that void, like I don't know, maybe the select board would have still done their thing, but like there's a good chance they really wouldn't have, because
That's
like
good.
they need folks who are sort of educated and committed in this issue just to like, help them make the arguments.
Okay, so just to move along, I guess I could give, maybe I haven't given quite enough framework as to how these pieces fit together in the town plan. And part of this is how it's developed over the last few weeks since we met last. You know, the steering committee has met a couple of times, planning commission has met. So the strategy, so let's start with the planning commission. The planning commission wishes to see as much continuity and sameness about this plan as the 2018 plan. First of all, I'm just saying, and they have to approve the plan. So we want to just keep that in mind. By the way, I really like the goals and the actions. I think the goals and the actions are strong and direct and perfect. I'm in favor of the goals and actions that we have set. So the narrative is supposed to be a brief, like 2-page, just introduction that's easy to read. The data, I would like to see, and the steering committee would like to see that data go somewhere else. Either in the almanac, only be called out as to exactly where it is, where the data is, or an appendix that is called housing. Appendix E or something is called housing. And all of that data, which does, I think, make it hard. I agree with Andrew. It makes it hard for people to read. They shut down when they start hearing those numbers. All of those numbers are very important. They should be in the plan somewhere, but probably not in the narrative. That all of that should be in the data section, which is supposed to be what the almanac or the appendices contains, is the data. So it is more like a higher level, I guess, overview of what we want. So if you look at the 2018 housing section, there's nothing in there that we would really disagree with. And in 2018, we were all familiar with this problem. I think the only thing that's different is urgency about it. And so I like the approach of making greater urgency to what we already have. We already knew about these problems. That is why one of the action items was to form a housing committee. The Planning Commission had already started to put in more infill allowances from zoning into the zoning ordinance at that point in time. And the zoning is really, because of what we have done over the last 8 years, like a fairly small part now of what it is. In some towns, it is a major barrier, but in Richmond, it's not so much a major barrier anymore because of the changes that have already been made. So what I would like to see in there, and what I think the steering committee is going to want to see, is what has actually changed over the last 8 years. That's one thing. The housing committee has been formed. The assessment was done. I think that needs to be mentioned. May Reed mentioned that. The study was done by the housing consultant, and many of those changes have already been put into the zoning ordinance. So that needs to be mentioned. So those changes have already happened, and they should be mentioned as having happened.
It would help. I think I put just a comment about that. Or maybe actually I didn't. I think I just sort of generally referenced it. So I don't know if you added that in your draft, but it would be really helpful because I'm not familiar enough with that.
I just put it in my draft, and you sort of mentioned it kind of in your draft. And, I didn't I just edited that a little bit, but the whole data pieces, all the data pieces I removed to put into this alleged data section, because it was found that people don't read it. And you are someone who's interested in this now. you're very used to data and numbers, and there really are people who don't want to know about that. So I'm hoping we can introduce urgency in the narrative, which is just supposed to be a short introduction to the action items. This is called the technical plan. So it's the actions and goals that are the key. So there's that. There's mentioning what has already been done, what has been done, how we knew about it, how we started to work on it, and what hasn't been added is the urgency piece. So there's that. The second thing that is kind of an overriding thing is I agree with Andrew that you really don't want to give people the idea that this is a solvable problem. This is not a solvable problem by us. This is a widespread problem. It's across Vermont. It's across the United States. We have this housing problem. There are many factors. And what we can do, you know, what we want to say is what can we do as a town, really? It is not a solvable problem. We cannot solve this problem. It would be nice if we could, but we can't. There are so many factors that are out of our control. So I would like to be realistic and say, here's what the town can do. And I think our action items do say that. I think they say it perfectly. They're suggestions and they're ambitious, you know, thinking about extending the water and sewer structure, which will make some people roll their eyes because people have been trying to do that for 20 years, but it's a good goal to have in there. We can have ambitious goals, but I don't think we should make people think that we can fix this by just doing this or that. So that was kind of another thing that I wanted to make sure is in there is, okay, this is a problem, we have it, it's urgent, you know, we can introduce the element of that it's more urgent, but it was a problem back then if you read the other part, the 2018 narrative. So let's see, what else?
Virginia, do you?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you mention use the term the data, like, are you just implying? I mean, there's a lot more Reed's outline than just data, right? But are you referring to that script, the narrative draft that Reed put together? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
the narrative draft. I mean, can we look at it? Let's see, who's running this meeting? Connie, can you screen share or can some screen share? We could look at what I'm calling the data is like anything that has numbers in it, pretty much.
Yeah, I should do this.
You should be able to share.
Okay, so Mark is going to share May Reed's document. I'm going to see if I can read it. Okay, so if you scroll down, keep going. And the footnotes, probably the steering committee is not going to have them in the narrative, but we don't know about whether we'll have them in the almanac or not. All of this stuff about what came out of the surveys, that's data. The anecdotes that reflect key metrics, that's all data. One metric that highlights the severity of the crisis is the cost burden. That's all data. Another obvious metric that sheds light on the crisis is the home sales prices. That's all data. Next page. So all of that so far is data. And, you know, the statement, Richmond's housing crisis has been brewing for decades, needs to be reconciled with the part that suggests that it's a new problem, that we haven't been working on it all this time. So we either have to go one way or the other. There are obviously causes. This is data. New home construction has stagnated with less than 1 growth rate for decades. The majority of Richmond's housing stock was built between 1960 and 80. And this is important data. I am not disputing that this is good for anyone who wants to take a deep dive into it. This is it. Good stuff to have. Probably not in the narrative. So all of this since 2021, Richmond has added to its housing stock.
Okay.
So, and then, I like the part about the diversity and that the town made a policy about inclusion and that people aren't understanding that there's a relationship between housing, affordable housing, and inclusion. So anyway, if you look in the edited down draft that I put together, that stuff is in there. And so, like, just an example, not to pick on it, but Richmond can dig its way out of this crisis by committing to a plan of smart growth. That is probably not true. That's too over optimistic to think that we can actually dig our way out of this crisis. We're suggesting some solutions, these action items, some solutions. Smart growth is already in the other plan. It's not like a new thing. Committing to a plan of smart growth.
I
And
mean, that could be more Richmond can contribute its share to the housing crisis, right?
Yeah,
But
Yeah, which I
by
think was
committing
draft
to-
one, but
yeah,
yeah.
we definitely want
Right.
to say that Richmond should be contributing its share. And here are some things that we can do. There are many things that we can't do. We can't talk about the cost of financing and reducing it. We can't talk about any kind of labor shortage. We can't talk about, and we have very little land, as Andrew said, to develop. So I think we need to recognize those problems as being something that we're not expecting to fix the whole of it.
I think
We do
so
want to
if
just mention Act 47 and Act 181, but I don't know that we want to talk too much more about that. We just want to mention that the state is now mandating some of these things that we were already doing and that more things can be done. Yes, that's true. And we could talk more about those pieces of legislation in the data portion in the almanac or the appendix if we want to do that. So I guess those were the main things that I wanted to say. The steering committee is like considering like radically cutting things down. The planning commission wants things to be just the same. So I'm kind of between those two groups of people who both are invested in doing it their way. So we have to walk somewhere in between those two things.
what is the normal process for each committee to get its narrative before the steering committee? You just like meet with them?
There's no process. Most of the narratives are going to be rewritten by members of the steering committee with information from groups who can deal with it, like the historic resources. They do most of their own, and mostly nobody challenges what they say. Natural resources is very interested in doing their own. So the Conservation Commission and this group of natural resources advocates, Andrew Spall's committee, they're all working on a version that is going to come to the steering committee. Each member of the steering committee, each of the remaining 5 members of the steering committee, has 2 sections that are assigned to them. The only one who doesn't have an assigned steering committee member is the housing committee, who we have allowed or suggested that they do their own narrative, but it's going to have to be within these parameters that we're working with. And, we haven't really made that very clear. But there's no process. It's all ad hoc.
But we don't get a steering committee member assignment.
Well,
Virginia.
it will be looked
Well,
at by
is
all
that your,
the,
is
yeah,
that you?
I'm kind of doing it because, for this committee and also for energy, because I'm a member of the energy committee, that that I'm sort of in charge of chaperoning them, I guess. But we have felt that now we have a housing committee. This is great, and they can put together. And you have put together, you have put together some really good goals and actions that I think are super appropriate and ambitious and forward thinking, and can kind of stand on their own. That's, but we will have to have a narrative because that's the structure. We have this 2-page narrative that talks about it a little bit. And I think if we add some urgency to the fact that we've already been working on it, but maybe not urgently enough, we can kick ourselves into the next level of doing something. And then we have these action items that are pretty radical. I mean, a housing fund, that's an actual suggestion of something we might be able to advocate for and actually do that. I mean, wouldn't that be cool if we could promote a housing fund or promote the extension of the water and sewer infrastructure with our advocacy, the advocacy that got Tier 1B done? So I don't know. I mean, so I'm happy with those. But I think we have to take all the data out of the narrative. So that's my spiel. And I'm trying to keep all these other groups happy.
I guess I find, I was looking at the 2018 plan, and there is that pie chart that's there around the housing stock, right? And there is
Which
some
may be out
discussion.
of date. I don't know. If that's in
Sure.
there, that's a piece of data that's in there that probably shouldn't be in there, because if it's in there, it should be updated. We don't probably have the data. So I would take that out.
Sure. Yeah, I think we'd have to, but I guess to my point is that there was some data in there, and I think there's maybe a little bit of a middle ground. Like I think there are, when people read, they want to some folks, right? There's different learners. Some folks want to see some numbers, some folks care more about the big picture, high level direction we're headed in, and that's just how they consume information, right? So I think there is some maybe happy medium in the middle around how do we prove or how do we demonstrate that there is a challenge and there's a gap for us to close here, maybe with not as much information as was in Marie's draft, but maybe more than what's in your draft, right? And maybe there's 3 to 5
Sure.
minutes with some, hey, if you want to know more, we got more for you.
Right. I mean, I
Look
would
in the
like to
back of it.
mention that these studies are found somewhere, they're in the housing committee, they're in the almanac, wherever they're going to be found.
Right.
This information is out there as best we can develop it. So,
Personally, for me, if I were looking at it like a line per one line per 2 paragraphs or something like that from a data perspective, I think that the difference of where we are today in 2025 is that there doesn't need to be much data for people to see or read to understand there's a housing crisis because it impacts everybody and everybody talks about it today. So I think what resonates more, like the data to Virginia's point, should be accessible to people like me that are numbers nerds and stats nerds that want to see it. And having it there is great, but the people that we actually need to connect with, that need to digest what we're going to present to them or what's going to be included here, the numbers don't really matter because it's so impactful to so many people. It's not 10, even 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't the conversation it is today. It's maybe I'm naive because I'm so deep in the industry and it's what dominates my life, but I think that every water cooler at work talks about housing on a very regular basis.
I'd
So
agree. When I talk to people about being on the committee, they're like, yeah, we have a challenge here
right.
in Richmond, right?
They just want to know what's going to happen and how do we do it? What's going to happen here? What's your idea? They don't need the numbers to know that there's a problem, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, where do we go from here? Marie, do you want to take a combination of
No, I am passing this one off.
I know, and you made such a nice document and it had all this information on it, and
That's all right. I think
it was
it's
good to
better
read, but you
suited for
are kind
someone
of new
else's.
to the process, so
Yeah,
it's
my fault for accepting the assignment. But yeah, Mark, if you want to take the next stab and see if there's an integration, I think that's the best.
Virginia
I'm
or
happy to.
Connie? Would you like to take that?
Well, how is the next step different from the draft that Virginia sent us this evening? I mean, didn't she do the exercise that we're talking about?
We don't
well,
Except
think
for
I
the
took
so.
out
Some
pretty
of us
much
don't think so.
pretty much all the data to put in some other place.
So
I don't
yeah,
know if Andrew, if you want to look at that draft that I wrote.
Liked what you, no, I was looking at the long document, the majority of this call, what you sent out, I didn't digest in
It's
the,
in your email. If
I
you
know I
wanted,
saw it as we talked.
yeah,
I got home about 6 minutes before this meeting started and hadn't ate or anything. So, I
yeah.
mean, that type of length without appropriately, I don't know that it needs to be regurgitated. I think that the key here is Virginia knows what these people want to see. Um, and it sounds like it's evolved in the past 6 to 8 weeks about what they're looking for on this front side. So I don't know that I would reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah, I mean, if we could just, I mean, maybe I put in some kind of like summarizing statement about the data. Each section of data should have like possibly some kind of a summarizing statement. Hang on one second.
Sure.
Couldn't we just take everything that we already put together and expand that and like make it kind of two sections? Isn't that what we're talking about doing?
So we
I
have the Virginia section and the Reed section. Are we just talking about putting the Virginia section in the main body of the town plan and the Reed section in the appendix?
Didn't Virginia take everything from her writing, just extracted the verbiage, then moved the data? No? Okay, she's shaking her head no. Okay. I didn't read
Right.
it. I'm sorry. I got it.
Yeah.
It
So
was a late delivery.
the other issues that I had besides the data were that it's not a problem that's fixable by people in Richmond. And I wanted to make that clear that this is a problem that extends beyond, it's not just a Richmond problem. It's a problem
right.
all over Vermont and probably all over the United States. So I want not to sound too optimistic, like we could really fix this problem, but maybe it's too pessimistic. I don't know. I put
I
I
think
put
there
that in the
there
beginning
wasn't
and the end.
there
Yeah.
wasn't a housing committee in 2018. Like I think we should have the opportunity to like be the housing committee and be the voice that is like, yeah, maybe we're too Pollyannish, but like this is an issue and we're going to tackle it. And we haven't until until the last couple of years.
Well, we
And now we
have.
have a,
That's the thing, that we have tackled it and we
well,
have
there
made some
haven't been,
changes.
but there hasn't been a lot of showing, at least. So
Yeah.
I know there's a lag between obviously when, new zoning regulations are implemented, but it hasn't, you know,
Yeah.
There hasn't
really
been a
changed.
boom
There
in
hasn't, yeah,
construction,
or
sorry,
Right.
to
even,
say, hey, look, we have
or
results.
even sort of going above like the 1% growth rate in terms
Yeah.
of new build. So I just
So
think
that's,
like there's a little bit more of like we should be able to have a little bit of a hopeful like add a little bit more than what the 2018 town plan was because like we weren't here then. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think this adding the sense of urgency and adding the fact that we maybe should be doing more and that we have had the study done that suggests things now that we can do that hadn't been suggested in 2018. I mean, I think those are all good things to bring up. But I don't know. I mean, do you all want to say that this is a solvable problem? This is not a solvable problem. I don't think this is a solvable problem. I think we can do things for it, and our action items really go there.
It isn't necessary to solve the problem. It is necessary to act and to move it in a particular direction. I always am appreciating Andrew's reference to 40 to 50 years from now, we want it to look different. And that takes lots of repeated outreach to say, yep, it's a problem. Yep, it's a problem. So that the next time something comes up, people are going, yeah, I guess this is a problem. That it takes a lot of work to make an action at the size of a community happen. And the value of the housing committee is that it exists to persist on expressing that based on good data and based on supportive, helpful actions by the rest of the town that the housing committee can support. I don't think we have to say we're trying to solve a problem. I think we have to say that our responsibility is to continue to move the needle or move the solution a little bit closer and a little bit closer, like a housing fund, for example.
Mhm.
I think there's plenty for us to talk about. The question is, I have a feeling like, I had a 9th, 10th grade English assignment where I had to write a sonnet. Let me tell you, that was not my fun experience in English class. What you have to do to write a sonnet is learn iambic pentameter and couplets and only 14 lines, and it's got to look like this. So if we have to write a sonnet in order to help the housing committee and the whole town move forward on housing, then let's write that sonnet and get it done and put it in, and we can all sing it together. But the point is that our fundamental job isn't about writing a narrative. It's about helping the town move forward. And the narrative can say, the purpose of the housing committee is to help this town move forward. And here are our next set of 8-year actions and goals that we wish to be held accountable for and hold the town responsible for helping us do. So I know that Mark and Mairead and Virginia in particular have put in lots of work on making the words look a particular way. My impulse is, as someone who has to write a lot of words for a living, is I think this is not our most important task. Can we just get it done and understand that I really, from what I read of Mairead's document, it looks extremely compelling. Some of that passion and emotion has been lost in the narrative that Virginia provided, but Virginia provided a good package of information that helps us do our work and keep us moving forward. That's what I would like to support, is let's just keep moving forward. What the best way to do that depends on who's got time to work on it next. So who's got time to work on it next is, I think, the important question. And it's not me, because I'm going on vacation next week. I won't be in Maine. I'm going to be in the Czech Republic. So you
Ooh,
won't find me. All right.
wow.
Anyway, I'm bicycling along the Danube.
Nice.
I like it too. So having blundered around like that for a few minutes, is there anybody who feels inspired to like rescue me out of this and like say, yeah, somebody can work on this next?
Andrew is shaking his head, yes.
He's just laughing.
Oh, yeah.
I can take a stab to merge these two documents into it's gonna get muddy, but I can try. When is our technically our next scheduled meeting?
Oh, sorry.
Is it the 19th or the 26th of August?
It is the 26th.
Okay.
Can you do it by the 26th?
That would have to be the goal.
I mean, I can just get off my high horse and just like try to just see this through. Although I'm a little bit feeling a little spicy about it, but maybe it just makes sense for me to go. I think what would have been more helpful is to actually like understand this before understand some of the like things that had changed in the steering committee and just had a little bit more direction. But between Connie's minutes, if you send them out, I don't know when they're available, but if you send them out, because they were really helpful. Sort of memorializing where we've landed, I can refer back to them. And I think there's just a couple of, like summary points of the data to see if we can add back in along with the urgency that I can't let go of.
Good.
Yeah.
Mairead, I get
I
it.
think it's good to have the urgency in there, but it's good also to recognize that we've been doing this work.
No,
And I
I know.
understand
Yeah.
that there haven't been results.
No.
And there
I
may
mean,
not be results from this town plan either, but
yeah. No, I think though one of the missing links is I was envisioning that in the next iteration, you or Mark or Connie or Andrew could have added, just the actual explicit stuff about what the town has done, because I think that's really important information. And it helps people feel like, look, we've been doing this as these mandates have been coming down, and it's sort of like it's moving and we're headed somewhere else. I just didn't have the specifics about all of the amendments, and I didn't want to turn myself around. But
so I put some of that into the draft
Okay.
that I put in. So, and if we could just, either try to pick out really cogent pieces of the data.
Yeah.
Or summarize the data in some way. I mean, it goes to history, and it's discussed, this is discussed in the almanac as well, both under demographics and under, this is part of the problem with the almanac, is a lot of these things are discussed in different sections. The steering committee isn't liking that. But anyway, like pick out either a summary or one cogent piece of data, so that we have a tiny bit of data, but not too much that's going to overwhelm people. And I would really like them to go to the goals and the actions and focus on that, because I think that is a really strong piece of this. So,
Virginia, is there a deadline we're working towards to have this narrative and our action items to the steering committee? Like, I know I've sent a draft of the action item to the committee, but do we have a deadline?
steering committee is trying to have a draft by by the beginning of September, a draft. So, if we could just change this a bit and do it by the end of August, that would be great. I know that you're a little put out, Mairead, but if we could talk in the period.
Yeah, no, I think that's the best
You
way.
could
I think that
send me
always
something and
feels a
I'll
lot
send
better.
you something
Yeah,
and be really honest about it.
Totally.
I'll send it back to you and you can send it back to me. And,
no, I think I was looking for this guidance like a month and a half ago when I started. So I appreciate it now, better late than never. But
so if you're willing to work on it a little more, let's just keep in touch and work together on it. And
I can't.
Something that I'm going to say to the steering committee, this is it. This is what we're going to do for housing. And that they're going to buy it, and that the planning commission is then going to buy it.
Yeah.
But it's moving along. It sounds like Mairead is going to give us a second chance. And do a draft, work with Virginia. Andrew, do you want to be involved in that?
I don't think he can he be involved in it? I mean, he could be involved in it. Nobody's going to care that it's actually a quorum that's working on this document. I mean, we'll do something and put something together, and then just ask him his opinion about it.
Or, get it to where you like it, and then Virginia's done with it, and Mairead could say, Andrew, what do you think about this? I mean, I know it's not supposed to be, we're supposed to be very careful, but we have a deadline
Yeah,
and
and we're not really making any significant decisions by what we're doing. We're just making a
Yeah.
draft that is now going to go to some people who are going to make comments about it. And so,
Right.
Okay,
you
great.
know, or Andrew, if you just have a few comments you want to send along, then send them along to us and we'll try to not be violating the open meeting law.
That would be bad. All right. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, well, let's move on. Thank you all for putting in the time to refine this. So next on the agenda, and we've touched on this a little bit, were the actual action items for the town plan. And we have the document here that outlines the action items. Virginia, you already mentioned that they looked good to you.
Yes, I like
And
them. They look good.
I didn't have anything new that I had specifically updated with these, but I think any other comments that we need to make, or did anyone else have a chance to look at them and feel like we need to adjust any other
I think
line?
they're good because they're very much more specific than the one that's in there now. The one goal is to have diverse and affordable housing. Okay, great. We don't have it, right? As May Reed pointed out, these goals are in there and we don't have any housing more than we had before, pretty much. So I think these are good. They're more specific. They're actual, you know, things that can be done in a very specific way, or, you know, we can try to do. I don't know if we're going to be able to do them, but they're good goals to have, I think.
Okay, great. Any other final comments here? No. Okay,
And
perfect.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I share these with others? Like I'm thinking of the community group Richmond Racial Equity, which is noted in the goals. I think they would be pleased to see it, and if they had any comment, they could let me know about it.
Yeah, and you'll just have to couch it by the fact that this is the draft that the Housing Committee is submitting to the steering committee, and the steering committee may make some changes, but we'll hope they won't. And, you know, we'll let you know if changes are made. You know, this is not like a final document of any kind. I don't want people to think that, because there are all these hurdles that it has to overcome still in its future.
Got it. I agree, and I think I can convey that.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So I'll stop sharing that, and I think the final item on the agenda is to
Oh,
talk.
wait, could I say one more thing, Mark? Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. There was a little typo in, or like in one of them, I think the first one, which it didn't read quite right. Extend or extending, it should be something, there was not a parallel construction.
Yeah, and
I think it's the first one that had the word extend in it.
Number 2 says, e.g. extending the water wastewater infrastructure. Or on number 2, where's
Oh gosh, now I've
Oh.
lost it. Can you go along a little bit down further?
down goal 2, number 1.
Yeah. So create policies that encourage affordable housing in accordance with and extending beyond state mandates. Is that what you want to say?
yes, I think state mandates in some instances might be a minimum. So
Yeah.
do we go beyond
Yep.
what the state is mandating? So extend beyond those.
That's fine. I mean, I think given the choice between extend and extending in that sentence, you kind of have to use extending.
I mean, I can see what's that little app tell
Or
me?
you could say create policies that encourage affordable housing development. I don't know, according to or extending beyond state mandates, or in accordance with and extending beyond state mandates. I mean, it's a little awkward, but I think that's better than just the word extend in there. I don't know what you all, other people think about that, but
I'm satisfied with the way it was edited.
Sorry.
sorry. Thank you. That was just one thing I noted in there, but
Good thing to know. Thank you, Virginia. Is that enough on town plan action items, Mark? It seems like we like them. We
Yeah.
made some minor edits and we are okay sharing it with others as a draft.
Yep. And I'll
Yep.
say, once we have the next iteration of the narrative, we'll mush these two together. Or if in the narrative draft you want to take this document and just append it, then we can hand that over in one document too.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I was just gonna ask actually, because I thought the narrative was sort of like the intro to the
Mhm.
act. So it's actually like two separate, but yeah, it
should
just
go
like leads
together.
into, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
It's called the technical plan, and it
okay,
contains two sections, the narrative and the
okay,
goals and actions. That's the
okay.
technical plan.
I still have another question about the document Mark was just showing us.
Mhm.
I just scrolled down, Mark. I realized at the end it says recommend these go to other sections. Does that stay as formal part of our plan?
Um, I don't think I think this is meant to be a note to the steering committee that, hey, we've looked at these elements that were in the 2018 town plan and would like to not have them necessarily be part of the housing section. So it's not necessarily something that's meant to be printed in the final draft of the town plan, but more a note to the
Were they action items? I'm not sure that
they were
I.
action items. Yeah, here I can share. And we had when we had originally gone through the 2018 town plan items, there
Mm,
were some items in there that were more around like special flood hazard,
hmm
provide guidance to homeowners around flood hazards and historic, homes and things, which I think is these items are we don't feel like are part of necessarily the housing committee's mission per se.
hmm Yep.
But they're tangentially related to housing,
Yeah.
but I don't
So
think
could you put that as in a separate memo to the steering committee?
okay.
So what we would like to have for the technical plan is one document that the housing committee is submitting with a narrative and the goals and actions. And then in a note, a memo to the steering committee that accompanies it is this memo.
Okay.
Just so they don't get confused and think that that is part of the housing technical plan.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then those
Put them
groups
together.
are going to have to look at those things and understand that, I mean, these were these goals that were in the implementation table and given to the housing committee, I mean, where do these come from? You just looked at them and felt they were relevant to housing?
They yes, I think they were kind of relevant to housing. I believe they were in the housing section in the 2018 plan as it was written in 2018. But as we've evolved and now the housing committee has been formed, like I don't know if it totally aligns with the action items that we want to take as a committee.
Yep,
But they're still important. Like, I don't think they're,
right.
members that currently live here, etc.
Well, they might have been in the implementation table, where if you looked through, did you look at the implementation table at the end with the 250
Yes.
goals? So I think you got these out of the implementation table and they kind of referred to housing, but they were in different sections and you wanted to make sure that they weren't assigned to housing. And maybe they need to be changed, or maybe they need to, certainly those other sections need to look at them and decide what to do with them.
Yeah.
So if you put that in a separate memo to the steering committee, I think that would be good.
Okay. All right. So the last item on the agenda was to talk about the strategic plan that we have been developing in parallel here. And what do we want to do in terms of what is the appropriate next step to take the strategic plan? I'm trying to find my window here as well to bring that over. Like, what is, and I think this is more maybe Virginia, some information more from you as to like how does this work in our town to talk about, hey, we have this plan, right? With a bunch of ideas in it, and it's not something, again, that our housing committee can all accomplish ourselves, but we can help advocate for. And I see this as a, kind of a direct result of when we were in front of the select board presenting the different plots of land in the community and our evaluation of could they be potentially developed for housing or used for housing. And we had asked for some direction from them as to, okay, what do you want the housing committee to be charged with doing? And their response was, you tell us. Right. And so I see this as kind of that response of, okay, here you asked for what we should be working on, or what should we be working on? Here are our recommendations, and yeah, going from there. So I guess we have this thing, what do we do with it? Do we present it to planning commission? Do we get in front of the select board? Do we shop it around to different committees within the community?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm wondering if that would like to be in the almanac of the town plan. Do we want to put that in the almanac of the town plan? That, this is the strategic plan from the housing committee. That would be one place to put it. I guess I'll have to totally reread it again and see, is it, most of the actions and goals were kind of taken from this, right?
Yes, I
they
would say
were,
there's alignment between them.
right,
I think this goes maybe a double click down into some more
right.
some more detail, when we yeah, some more detail
Yeah,
into that.
I mean, we could get on the agenda of the select board at some point and present it just like we did with the report on, the affordable housing areas, the possibilities of the different affordable housing areas, which didn't seem to be possible at that point in time. But so that was a report that the housing committee made.
Yeah.
So this could be summarized. I mean, you wouldn't probably, given the work that they have to do, the amount of work that they have to do, it couldn't be more than, I don't know, maybe half an hour. So it would have to be summarized highly into half an hour as a report. That would be one thing that might be worth doing, getting on their agenda to present the strategic housing plan.
Is it worth talking to a select board member or two and just running it by them and seeing how they would like to ingest or hear about.
I don't know. I mean, I think you'd have to get on their agenda to do it. You'd have to tell Josh, look, we want to present this strategic plan to the select board, and he might be the one to ask if,
I usually go to Jay Fur when I want something on the select board agenda, and I just email him directly. And if I need to explain it to him or I want to talk to him, then I ask him for time. He's extremely generous with his time, which is not always a good thing for him, but that's what he does. And he was present when we did that select board presentation where we said, we had done an analysis of developable, properties in the central town area and asked the question of them that Mark just described, and they said, I don't know, why don't you figure it out? So we're responding to a direct question that they asked us to do. So I think it definitely goes to the select board, could go other places too. I have no objection to it showing up in the almanac either. But I definitely think it goes back to the select board. So we have someone saying, yes, you got it exactly right. Good for you. Go do that. Or asks us another, or it helps raise a discussion about something else that we should be doing. But definitely, this was an assignment given by the select board. Let's take it right back to them and ask them for their support. They don't have to
and
do anything other than say yes.
I think if you just said to Josh, we need to be on their agenda to present this report that they wanted us to do, he would put you on the agenda. I don't think you have to ask a member of the select board particularly.
You
But-
don't have to, but the chairman is responsible for saying when something will show up on an agenda and on which agenda that it is. Otherwise, Josh does the best he can, and he talks to Jay anyway. I mean, they that
Yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
they control lots. So I just like to make sure someone on the select board remembers, oh yes, this
Mhm.
was related to that thing that happened over a year ago. It's been a little while. It won't come to their minds instantly.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we were to do that, what would we like to target for? I mean, obviously it's up to what is on the select board agenda, but is there a time frame that is better?
There is a time frame that is worse, and that is waiting until October. Because they start getting into budget and things start getting crazier and crazier for the rest of the year. So
Okay.
if we could get this done in September, which is also convenient for supporting the actions that we want to put in the town plan, that would be handy. There's only 2 meetings a month, so I'd leave it up to them, but I'd say sooner before things get crazy with the budget. September is a good time.
And one thing that I think, since we will undoubtedly have a fairly limited period of time in which to present this, we ought to be having maybe priorities, like there's a lot of things on the housing plan, on the strategic housing plan. We should have priorities. I mean, and what our time frame is for doing some of these things. Like if you look at the part, Connie, that you put together with the outreach, like it involves meetings and films and Are we doing any of those? Do we have any of those planned on our schedule actually, or?
Well,
Rather than just it's that we're going to be doing all this outreach, are we actually going to be doing all of this outreach, or?
I've asked the Richmond Racial Equity Group to do exactly that, and they said that they would be glad to. We haven't had a chance to talk about that here in the Housing Committee, but they genuinely think that this is consistent with their mission and would like to support the work that we have discussed, which is why I wanted to take confirmation, Richmond Racial Equity is part of, what we're doing to improve housing. to them. So I'd say we don't have like a plan yet, but we have their support.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Maybe that's something that we talk about next month is what elements do we want to prioritize and what elements do we want to start acting upon?
yeah, I mean, it's,
So we could, yeah, to your point, Virginia, it's like, here's our plan and these are some of the things that we're already putting in motion as a result.
We could also ask the select board if they have top priorities. Give them actually a specific kind of feedback to give us. I mean, be careful what you ask for because you may get something that you didn't really want to do right away, but you could engage the community in more of a conversation.
yep. Okay, well, I just, think they're going to, I just kind of don't want them to just say, yep, that's great. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's a very nice plan. Go do whatever you want to do. I mean, they may say that, and I guess that's okay, and we'll just then continue to do whatever it is that we find that we can and have time to do. Or maybe they'll say, well, do this or do that, or yeah, maybe just leave it up to them to say if they want us to do anything. But anyway,
We can, select board is pretty responsive, I have to say. So if I said to them, you have 3 votes, here are all the action plans, read them ahead of time, and then be ready to come and say, here are the 3 that we care about the most. And then we're going to poll you in the select board meeting so you can talk about that. We can get other public opinion people to talk about that too, whoever we invite to the actual meeting. And we could actually get like a little community focus group, not exactly a focus group, but like a nominal group to do some nominal group voting to help us say, here are the priorities based on a conversation. I would love to facilitate that. That's what I do for a living, or I used to when I was a consultant. So Mark, if we'd like to get select board engagement, this is a great opportunity to do it, and I'm glad to help with that.
Well, kind of let's talk about what that could look like.
Okay.
Maybe we work on just a quick note to Jay. Just, I like that idea, just to kind of help start to see the discussion a little bit, right? And get some type of direction that, hey, yes, the select board is in favor of or not in favor of this type of direction, right? And then kind of get some thoughts. So maybe we can draft up a note to Jay and then get on the agenda for September.
Do you want to send that note, or are you busy and you'd like me to do it, Mark?
You could do it, that would be amazing.
I am capable of sending a note. I can do that.
I am
But
happy to have others help.
yep, I will copy you on that, Mark, so you'll see it go by.
Okay. Great. And Virginia, do you want to, in the meantime, just take another spin through it from top to bottom?
What?
The strategic plan you had meant to.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't able to spend any time looking at, again, I think I've looked at it since it was, is this different from the one that we looked at before?
I made some minor edits. I think I added one extra bullet point in here about the chip piece, but no, it's not much different than what we've had before. And I don't know why the font is weird here. Looks weird.
Mhm. Yeah, sure, I'll look at it again and
Okay. Great. All right, so I did mention at the top of the meeting that we're not changing times. However, earlier in the meeting, I am going to be in Atlanta that week that our next meeting is at. And generally busy in the evening. So I would not be able to come to attend the meeting. Do you all want to continue to meet at next month at the given time, or do we want to play that game of find another calendar date?
I'm good with playing that game. There's only 5 of us, and we're all here tonight, the ones that usually show up. So we could just grab our calendars right now.
Yeah, that's fine. So while we're all grabbing our calendars, just so that my brain is right, it's the third Tuesday. That's our standing meeting, right?
No, I thought it was the 4th.
Oh, is it? Okay, okay.
Uh,
Oh yeah, we are at the fourth Thursday. Thank you. Okay,
Today
so the
is the fourth
26th.
It is
Yeah.
the 4th Thursday again. So, do you want it to be a different Thursday of the month, Mark, or a different day of that same week, or something else?
I would say calendar's all weird. I would say a different week, but I could do the week prior or the week after, and I'm pretty.
I can do the 21st of August, which is hold on, I'm on the wrong day.
Thursday.
Tuesday. We want to do Tuesdays, right? So the 19th of August instead of the 29th.
The 26th.
6th. Keep looking at the wrong month.
I cannot do the 19th,
Won't be the 19th.
but I could do the Tuesday, the 2nd of September. And
I have
actually, that month, September, has 5 Tuesdays.
It does.
So
For such a short
theoretically,
month.
we could do the 2nd and the 30th.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
the
be-
second and the 23rd is the fourth Tuesday.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be meeting just 3 weeks apart. And I don't want to change any more meetings than we absolutely have to. Is there any August date that works so that we get to keep our August meeting in August, or is the first week of September really better?
I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the 19th, 20th, or 21st of that week.
Do any of those work for you, Virginia?
No, I have a planning commission meeting on Wednesday. I will be not here on the 19th or the 21st. I will not be able to be at a meeting on the 19th or the 21st.
And I gather the whole week of the 25th is out for you, Mark?
I could do Thursday the 28th. What time do we start? We start at 7.
Usually start at 7.
Wife has a meeting that night. I cannot do that 28th.
Nope. Okay, then you can't.
Most of the kids.
Got any other suggestions?
Well, I mean, we could.
Does the second still work for everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
Second, I
Yep.
could do the 2nd.
No, it's not
Marie,
August, but
It's almost August. I mean, close
close
to
enough.
August. Yeah, it's kind of close enough. So we can call it the August meeting.
All right, I will try. I have to be in Worcester, Massachusetts that night, and I will just make it work if it works for everyone else. Marie, does it work for you?
It can, yes, but I think if you have a need, you should let us know. We're trying to meet everyone else's need.
Right.
Yeah, it's okay. I have a very flexible, understanding family, and it's another
Oh.
family thing. So, Andrew, the second works for you?
Yes.
Okay, then sold for September 2nd, Tuesday, September 2nd at 7 p.m. And I will let Duncan and I can't remember his name, Kevin?
Nick Blanchett? No.
Keith.
Who are you
Well,
talking
yeah,
about?
I'll let him know too, but
Keith?
Oborn.
Keith.
Keith.
Yes.
Keith. Yeah, not Kevin. That's my niece's husband. Okay. So I'll let them know that. They may have objections to like, oh, we don't have any channels available, because we have to use a Richmond Town Zoom link. So, but they're really good at figuring stuff out, and we'll see what we can do. If we have to move the time a little bit, that's a possibility, but let's keep it on the second. All right.
All right.
Everyone's responsibility.
Sounds good. Yeah, Keith is super busy because he's the zoning administrator now, so
Does he
I
do
don't
two
even-
jobs at once?
he is doing the zoning administration pretty much full time.
So we don't have a town planner anymore.
Well, we do have a limited amount of his time right now, but he's advertising, he's going to remain as the zoning administrator, but he's going to get an assistant zoning administrator. It was very difficult to make the previous situation work, where there was a zoning administrator who has a lot of authority on his own, and to have him have as a boss the director of planning and zoning, but the boss couldn't really tell him what to do. It's complicated, but so
Okay.
he's going to be the zoning administrator for the next 3 years, but he will have an assistant who can do some of the work so that he can do more of the planning work.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Glad to hear it.
yeah. It's
Okay,
not
what's our agenda for
Not
our next
ideal.
meeting? Mark?
To review the narrative,
Which will be finalized before
which
the
will be
meeting.
finalized, review the finalized
Yay.
narrative,
Yay!
and to talk about the strategic plan action items that we have, and how do we prioritize those. And then I think finally to prepare for a town plan or select board meeting.
Great. That's a great meeting agenda. I like it. Okay. Anybody want to suggest that we adjourn? Or was there more to talk about?
I think we're good. I am ready to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yay.
All
I
right.
agree.
We'll see you all later.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Thank you,
This is
everybody.
awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody, for being here.